Hi, this is Dan Elder from Kidasa Software. Today I'm going to be talking about most of our coded import options from Project, including this one right here, coded finish dates, birds on the wire, coded Gantt bars, coded Gantt chart, coded outlined, coded symbols and bars, coded presentation timeline, coded symbols and bars too, and dynamic rollup. You'll see a list on the right side of the video with all the timestamps, so if you want to skip ahead, you can just go to that time for whatever coded option you want to see. Okay, I'm going to show you how to set up your project file to use a text for a code field. So I'm going to go to my project file. I currently don't have any extra text fields here, so I'm going to add a column. I'll just say text 1. You can use, any field text 1 through 30. So I'm going to choose text 1, and basically you're going to assign codes to different tasks, and then Milestones will kind of group those tasks together during the import based on which import option you choose. So in this case, I'll just kind of, as an example, maybe type planning here and copy this code to a couple different tasks, and maybe I'll say like engineering for an example. It just kind of depends on how you want to group these tasks together. You can kind of do whatever you'd like. Let's see, and maybe I'll say like management. I'll copy that to a couple different tasks here. That looks pretty good. So basically when I import, depending on which import option I choose, it's going to group these together in different ways. And that's kind of how you set up the text field when you want to do most of these import options. You'll see the list there. Most of our import options are just going to use a text field, and I'll talk about the number fields a little bit later. So yeah, let's go ahead and start the import process. I'm going to go to the Connections tab, and I'm going to click on Create Report from Project, and then I'm going to choose my project file that I've already got open there, and press Open. And I want to make sure unique ID is set in the ID field, unless you've got some special case. Outline level set to 20, and import flag is set to all tasks, because these will work in conjunction with the code options, so just keep that in mind. To get to the coded options, we're going to click on Make a Swim Lane Chart. And the first one I'll do is just the first one on this list, which is coded finish dates. So I'm going to choose that. I'm going to make sure I choose the correct text field here. So it's going to be text 1. So I'm going to choose that. And before I go to set code names and colors, I'm going to see what the field length is right here. So it's set to 5, so I should just keep that in mind. I'm going to make all my codes 5 characters long. If you had a shorter code, you would need to change that down to be a little bit shorter. But I'm going to go to set code names and colors. And you can see I've got some like test codes in here. I can just click clear down here, and that'll just get rid of all those extra codes. So we've got 3 different codes, I believe. So we've got planning, and remember I'm just doing the first 5 characters here. So PLANN for planning, engineering, that's going to be ENGIN, and then management, that'll be the first 5 characters of management. And then you could put a title, so that's going to be like where this, project A, project B type thing is. So I'm going to say planning, engineering, and management. And then you have an option to change the color. So I'm going to click on this little color picker here and just choose some pretty nice looking colors. Obviously you can really get into some crazy colors if you really want to. I'll just do this one. That looks pretty good. And yeah, so I've got these codes set up, and these will save automatically. So if I import this again, or if I choose another coded option, it's going to kind of have these options already pre-selected. You can also save them as sets. So if you want to use this later and you want to use some other ones, you can save this as set 1, and then you could do some other ones and save that as set 2, and you can save and retrieve them right here. But I'm going to go ahead and press OK. And depending on the various type of coded import you choose, some of these options are going to be grayed out. And in this one, I can do symbol text. So I'm going to, let's see, I'll bring the name field. I'll just say name right there. And I'm not going to bring in a symbol note. You have the option to show the baseline if your project file has it. And you can show the note on schedule if you're bringing in symbol notes. I'm going to press next. And here you can see the finished text. Line 1 is set to name. That looks pretty good. I'm going to press next. And you can change the layout if you want to, but you can also change that after you import as well. So I'm going to press next, and then you can pick a different color theme if you like. Maybe I'll choose blues. That looks pretty good. And then I'll press finish. Okay, so it says import complete. So you can see with this option, the coded finish states, it kind of groups everything together in kind of like giant swim lanes. If I click on these individual rows, you can see each task is actually on its own separate row. So you can see it says page 1 of 2 down here. So probably if I go back to the layout tab, I could increase the rows per page and change rows per page right there, press apply setting changes. And there might be, there might actually be 9 tasks. Let me do that. Okay, so yeah, then you can see page 1 of 1 right there. So we've got all the tasks on that single page, and that's the coded finish dates. There's a lot of different options you can do with these text fields, so let's go ahead and look at the next one. So I'm going to go to the birds on a wire option. I'm going to go to the connections tab, create report from project. And I'm going to choose that Death Star example I've already got open. And again, I'm going to make sure unique ID is set here, outline level is 20, import flag is all tasks. And I'm going to click make a swim lane chart. And instead of coded finish dates, I'm going to switch this to birds on the wire. And I've still got text 1 selected and also a field length of 5. So I can go to set code names and colors. And like I said before, it should save your previous options. So you've got the code already saved, so the first 5 characters of planning, and then I put the title right there. First 5 of engineering, and same thing with management. So I don't actually need to go to this every time, but I probably will for each individual one just to show you guys. And for the symbol text down here, it's going to be set to name, so it's going to grab the name field. And I'm going to click on next, and you can change the page size right here if you want to. You can also change this after you import, so I'm going to press next. And I could pick a color theme, or I can just kind of let the template build it for me, so I'll just do that. I'm going to press finish. So you can see it says import complete. So what it did was it took each task, it took the first 5 characters of this text 1 field, and then it grouped them all onto different rows. So all the planning tasks went on here. It kind of grabbed the finish dates for each of those, and then kind of put them, birds on a wire, so it's kind of a little bar, and then the milestones are all on top. We have a similar one called Coded Presentation Timeline, which I'll go over pretty soon, where the triangles are also on the bottom of the line, so that's kind of the big difference there. But this one looks pretty good. Let's go on to the next coded option. So I'm going to the Connections tab, create report from project, choose that same file, press open, and again I'm going to go to make a swim lane chart. Instead of birds on the wire, I'm going to choose coded Gantt bars. Now this one's a little bit different. Instead of a background color, you're actually setting the bar color here. So if I go to set code names and colors, you'll see you can set the bar color as well as the symbology. So you can do like bar start and finish for some of these. If you just want the management ones to be milestones, then you can just set that right there. And depending on the different tasks that you chose, you might want certain ones to be milestones. So I'm just going to choose bar start and finish there, and this is going to be the actual bar color right here. But you can see it saved all the other codes that we did, so we've got the first 5 characters right there, and just make sure that matches up with the field length right here. And I'm using that text1 code field for coded Gantt bars. All of these options look pretty good. I'm going to press next. And I'm going to bring over the finish text name field. That looks pretty good. Press next. And I'll just keep this layout. That's fine. I'm going to press next. And this looks pretty good. I'm not going to change anything here. I'm just going to press finish. And then you can see it says import complete. That looks pretty good. So if I kind of scroll down with my mouse wheel, I can go to the next page. And it does look like there's 9 tasks. So I'm going to actually, in the layout tab, change that to 9 rows per page. And again, apply setting changes. And then you can see that applied right there. So that's coded Gantt bars. Let's go ahead and go to the next import option. I'm going to go to Connections, Create Report from Project. Choose that file. Make sure that's unique ID, outline level 20, all tasks for import flag. And I'm going to go to Make a Swim Lane Chart. And instead of coded Gantt bars, I'm going to choose coded Gantt chart. And you can see it looks a little bit different. So if I go to set code names and colors right here, you can't choose the symbology like you could with coded Gantt bars. But I'm just going to keep these options here. So the first 5 characters of that text1 field, and then the title right there. I'm going to press OK. And I'm going to press next. And this layout looks good. I'm going to press next. And pick a theme. I'm just going to pick one right here. Maybe I'll do boardroom. That looks pretty good. You also have this option, include toolbox colors, which will kind of adjust the toolbox to kind of match the colors of whatever theme you chose. So that looks pretty good. I'm going to press finish. And import complete. So you can see the colors are actually the background colors for each section. So instead of setting the bar color, it's setting the background color. So if I go to the layout tab, I can actually change the rows per page to 9, press apply setting changes, and then I can see that whole chart right there. A couple things about this schedule. Looking at the date range, we could probably fix that with the dates tab and maybe set this to the previous year right there, a little bit later, and the finish date as well. Let's just do that forward another year. That looks pretty good. Also, the symbols are not showing up for some of these single day tasks. That's because these start and finish symbols are actually invisible symbols for this kind of oval shaped bar. If we click down here kind of in the center, we can select the symbol. Just press left or right on your keyboard. Once you've got a symbol selected, it'll kind of scroll through all the symbols on that row. So if I get all the way to the right side with the text highlighted, that's actually the symbol that's got the text on it. So I can just change that to some other symbol here on the toolbox just by clicking on that symbol on the toolbox. Another thing is these bars, if they've got percent complete, they're kind of filling up with that little bar in the center there. You can see that on this task up here. If you don't want to show that, you can actually go to the Dates tab, and you've got symbols and bars fill to status state. So if you turn off, in this case, bars fill to status state, then it won't show those little bars inside. It'll just kind of have the regular bar with no smaller bar on the inside. Okay, I'm going to move on to the next import option, which is Coded Presentation Timeline. I'm going to go to the Connections tab, Create Report from Project, choose that same project file, press Open, and make sure I have unique ID set, outline level 20, import flag is set to all tasks. I'm going to choose Make a Swim Lane Chart, and then I'm going to go to Coded Presentation Timeline. And on this one, it actually groups things kind of like birds on the wire into their own rows. This time the triangles are on top and bottom, so it's pretty similar to birds on the wire. But I'm going to go to set code names and colors, just so we can see how those are set up. So if text one has, these first 5 characters, it's going to be placed into the planning one and engine for engineering, etc. So I'm going to press OK, and you can see I have the length for the code field set to 5, so that's great. And in this case, the symbol text is going to be set to the name field, which is kind of set right there. So I'm going to click on Next. And you can change your layout. I'm going to click on Next. And I can choose a color theme. This is only going to affect really, the date headings and so on, since the background colors are going to be chosen by our code field settings. I'm just going to press Finish right here. And it says import complete. That's great. So let me actually go to the layout tab. I'm going to just set it back to 3 rows per page. So 3, since I've only got 3 codes right here. Apply setting changes. That looks pretty good. If I go to the dates tab, it's actually filling the status for the bars, which I don't really want in this case. So I'm going to uncheck that bars fill to status, just so it uses that normal bar color in the toolbox over here. The last thing I can do is probably change the date range. It just took the date range from the project file, so I can just change the start date, maybe over to the left a little bit, and maybe over to the right for the finish date by a few months in the dates tab right there. And I guess the last thing, actually, maybe I'll get rid of these vertical lines. So in the format tab, you've got vertical grid lines. I can click on that. And I could change them to some other color or line type, but I'm just going to uncheck for yearly right here and press OK. And this line right here is actually the date line, so I could go to the Dates tab and just uncheck Display Date Line if I just want to get rid of all those vertical lines. Okay, let's move on to the next import option. I'm going to go to Connections, Create Report from Project. Choose that same file I've been importing, press Open. And I'm going to make sure it says Unique ID, Outline Level 20, Import Flag, All Tasks. And I'm going to choose Make a Swim Lane Chart. And I'm going to choose Coded Symbols in Bars 2 right here. And with this one, it's not really the same as Coded Presentation Timeline. You can see we've got the code field, text 1, field length 5. So if I go to Set Code Names and Colors, each of these codes can actually be assigned to different rows in Milestones and also different symbology and different toolbox rows. So the toolbox row, that's pretty straightforward. It's just going to be starting at the top of the toolbox, so that's row 1, and then you kind of count down right here. So if you wanted to change the symbology to use different symbols, obviously you can change this toolbox after you import, so you're not stuck using all of these exactly. But the symbology type, so in this case, if I chose milestone finish, everything with this code would go into row 2 in milestones, and it would only bring in the finish milestone. So it would just be a bunch of these symbols right here, this finish symbol. Milestone start and finish would be both of those symbols, and they would not have a bar. And then bar start and finish, it would bring the start symbol, the bar, and then the finish symbol. So maybe I'll choose a different symbology right here. Maybe that one looks good. And milestone start and finish. Yeah, let's do, this one looks good. Okay, and then the row, that's going to be the row number in milestones. So in this case, I think this template has 3 rows in each of these top 2 sections, and then maybe 4 rows in this section right here. So it's kind of set up for planning to go into row 2, kind of the middle of here, then engineering to row 5, and then management to row 8. So I'm going to go ahead and press OK. And I'm going to press Next. And right now, this is how the symbol text is going to be set up. Line 1 for the finish symbol is going to bring over the name field. So that looks pretty good. I'm going to press Next. And The layout looks fine. I'm going to press next on that. And for the color theme, I'm actually going to leave it alone. Right now, the colors are kind of manually set on a row-by-row basis with this template here. But if I wanted to, change the color theme, I could choose it right here. But that would kind of override all of these kind of things we got set up in the background with this template. So I'm going to press finish. And it says import complete. And then you can see all of these tasks came into this row right here, and they all came in as finished milestones. All of these tasks came into this row right here, and that's start and finish milestones. You can kind of see those. And then down here, they came in as bars. With this one, this last symbol right here, that's actually just a milestone, so it just came in as a single symbol in this case. And this is one of those templates where you can actually save a custom template. So I'm going to go over it in greater detail when we get to coded symbols and bars a little bit later. But basically you could change the toolbox, kind of change the schedule however you want it. And then you would just do File, Save As, Microsoft Project Custom Import Template. And I'll show you here in a little bit where you can actually choose your template. Only some of the import options have the custom template option. So I'll kind of show you that here in a few seconds. Okay, let's go to our next import option. You go to Connections, Create Report from Project, choose that same project file. And I'm going to make sure unique ID is set to, or ID field is set to unique ID, outline level 20, import flag, all tasks. And I'm going to click on Make a Swim Lane Chart. And like I was saying earlier, if you did want to use a custom template for this coded symbols and bars too, you can check use custom template and kind of pick that template file that you saved with the Save As Microsoft Project Custom Import Template. But for now, let's go ahead and switch over to Dynamic Rollup. I'm going to click on Dynamic Rollup, and we've got the code field set to text 1 still, field length is 5. So if I go to Set Code Names and Colors, this is how it's going to be kind of grouped up with this Dynamic Rollup. So Dynamic Rollup kind of puts everything on its own row, and then you can roll up to the summary level, which is pretty cool. So this is all set to 5 characters, so that's kind of how it's going to be grouped up with that text field. I'm going to press OK, and I'm going to click on Next, and I'll click on Next again, and I'm not going to change the color theme or anything. I'll just press Finish. So import complete, you can kind of see how it came in. So kind of using those background colors that I picked in the code fields. And everything is kind of down here below, and then a summary bar was kind of automatically drawn up here. So what you can do here is go to the View tab, and we have this option right here, Collapse Expand Indicators. So I'm going to click on Collapse Expand Indicators right here. The default for this is actually triangles instead of a plus and minus. So you can actually click on these. In your case, it might be a triangle. You can actually change that in the Tools tab in the General options. But for now, you can just click the little buttons there, and then you can see it kind of rolls up to that summary level. So in this case, maybe I'll change the layout to less rows per page, so there's some more space there for all these tasks. If you did want to change that plus minus here, or the triangles to plus minus, like I said, it's in the Tools tab. If you click on the General options, you can see down here right now mine is set to plus minus instead of the triangles, and I changed it to a nice green color. That looks pretty good. So again, that's the Tools tab. You click on the little General button right there, and it's kind of at the bottom, this roll-up indicator color size type right here. And press OK. And that's pretty much how that dynamic roll-up works. It kind of puts everything down below, and then you can roll it up kind of to that summary level right there. Okay, now let's talk about coded symbols and bars and coded outlined. Coded symbols and bars is going to use 3 number fields. So I'm just going to add number 1, number 2, and number 3. So number 1, and number 2, and number 3. And I already have these labeled in my project file. You can see the row in Milestones is going to be number 1, symbology type is going to be number 2, and toolbox row is going to be number 3. So for each of these tasks, we can set, exactly what row we want it to be in the milestone schedule. We can set the symbology type, which I'll talk about here in a few seconds. And then toolbox row, that'll be the number of the toolbox row that you want the symbology to come from. Then you also have an optional title field, which will kind of be placed to the left of the task row. Or you could just set up your schedule, kind of how you want it to be labeled, and then just not even automatically bring over a title field. It's kind of optional. So I'm just going to put in some example numbers here. So let's say I want phase 1 to be on the first 3 rows in the milestone schedule. So I'll just kind of evenly space these here. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and maybe 4, 5, 6 for this phase 2. 4, 5, 6, and 4. Symbology type. So the two that you need to really know about are probably milestone finish and then bar start and finish. So milestone finish is going to be symbology type 1. So if I have any milestones that I want to put, like maybe these down here, these are kind of milestones, I can set those to 1. And if I want to bring actual bars for these tasks, I'm going to set those to 5. And I'm going to show you during the import where you can actually see a list of all the different symbology types. We have, I think, over 20 different symbology types, so we can take a look at those. And then toolbox row, I'm going to set this to use the first row of the toolbox for these bars, and then the second row for this milestone finish. So all of these that are 5, I'm going to set that to 1. Number 2, toolbox row 2, for these milestones right here. So now let's go back to Milestones, and I'm going to go to the Connections tab, and again choose Create Report from Project, and go to Death Star Example, press Open. And I'm going to keep unique ID for ID field, outline level 20, import flag. Make sure you have all tasks here, unless you're also using a flag field, because it will not show anything that's flagged as no for whatever flag field you choose here. I'm going to choose Make a Swim Lane Chart, and I've got coded symbols and bars chosen right here, and I've got my number fields set up already. So milestones row is set to number 1, symbology is number 2, and toolbox row is number 3. If you want to see the different symbology types, you can click on the Help button right here, and then you could see all the different symbology types. So you got milestone finish, that's number 1. So we set a couple of our milestones to milestone finish, and then you've also got bar start and finish, which is number 5. But you can see there's a lot of different symbology types. So if you've got like baselines and stuff like that, you might want to choose a different kind of symbology type. Again, that's just by clicking the little Help button right here in the coded symbols and bars area. So I'm going to close that, and I'm going to press Next. Right now we don't have a custom template. I'm actually going to do this again with a custom template. I'll show you how to save a custom template and actually use it next time. But for now, I'm just going to press Next, and it's going to kind of use this default template right here. I'm going to click on Next. And if I want to bring over a symbol text, I'll just bring over, for example, the name field to the finish text. That looks pretty good. I'm going to press Next. And that's a fine layout size. I'm going to press Next, and I'm not going to change the color theme or anything. Just keep in mind all of these individual row overrides. They will be changed if you choose a color theme, so just keep that in mind. I'm going to press Finish. And it says Import Complete. That's great. So I forgot to turn off the title fields. That's why all these titles came over here on the left side. That's fine, but you can see most of the tasks came in using a bar, using that first row in the toolbox, and then some of the tasks came in as milestones, so I think just 2 of them right here. So this one was a milestone, and then this one right here, and then that came in using the second row in the toolbox, that finished milestone. So I'm just going to change this schedule a little bit and then save it as a custom template So I'm going to modify these start and finish symbols right here. So I'm going to double click on this finish symbol. I'm going to change it maybe to number 28, which is an invisible symbol. Press OK. Same thing with the start symbol, double click on that. So this is going to affect how the next import works. So it's going to be using this updated toolbox, as well as any other changes I make here. And maybe for the milestones, instead of a diamond, I'll do maybe a star. And right now this is actually set as a baseline symbol, so I'm going to switch that back to a normal symbol and press OK. And that looks pretty good. I think those are all normal symbols for these right here, and this finish symbol I'm using. That's great. If I wanted to relabel this, I'm actually not going to use the title this time, so I'm actually going to delete this stuff. And if I only want to do these two sections, I can just kind of hold shift and just delete all those extra rows right there. And maybe I'll just make this 6 rows per page in the layout tab and apply setting changes. And that looks pretty good. And for this, I'll just use the T tool and maybe call this phase 1 and maybe phase 2 right there. And for this column, I can maybe make the text a little bit larger. That looks pretty good. Yeah, so that's great. Okay, so I'm going to save this as a custom import template. So just go to File, Save As. Instead of chart or personal template, it's going to be this option right here, Microsoft Project Custom Import Template. I'm going to click on Save. And you can enter a description. I'm going to press OK. And I'll just call this coded template, and looks like I already have one, so maybe coded template 3. That looks pretty good, and I'm going to press save. And now, as an example, I'll add a couple more tasks from my project file. So let's see, we've got rows 1 through 6 that we can use, so maybe I'll add a couple here. So maybe this will be on row 3, and it'll be symbology type 5 for a bar. And it's going to use that first row in the toolbox. So I can actually just copy those 3 numbers, and I can just put them on whatever tasks that I want to have that same row and that same symbology type. Or I can go back later and change the row to a different row. And if I want to add a couple more milestones, I can do that as well. Just keep in mind, if any of these numbers are 0, milestones will pretty much ignore that. So I'm going to set that to 1, and maybe toolbox row 2 for that. And then maybe just row 2. That looks pretty good. So I've added a couple more tasks, and now I can go back to milestones. And I should mention, just make sure you're not like actively typing into any cells in project when you start the import process. So you can just kind of click to select maybe a row or something like that. Otherwise, you might have trouble importing. So I'm going to go back to milestones and go to connections. And I've already saved this template, so I can use it when I import. I'm going to go to Connections, Create Report from Project. Choose that same project I've got open. And I've got all these settings still set, so make a swim lane chart. I'm going to do a couple things here. So the title field, I'm actually going to just set that to none, which is that first option there. So it's going to keep whatever these are in the template, and I'm actually going to use that custom template. So use custom template, click on get template, and then you can actually choose your template file. So let's see, coded template 3, and press open, and then you should kind of see it in the background as well and kind of what it looks like. And then I'm just going to press finish at this point to kind of use all these settings from the template. And it should kind of go in import complete, and that looks pretty good. So I'm going to use the arrow tool to kind of select different tasks, and you can actually move these vertically, so they're kind of overlapping right now. You can select the start symbol, hold shift, and press up or down on the keyboard, and that'll kind of move these symbols and bars vertically within that same row. So if you have a bar, just make sure you select the start symbol. And for a milestone, you can just click on it. Again, hold shift and press up or down on the keyboard. And That looks pretty good. And that's pretty much how that coded symbols in bars import option works. And now we can talk about the coded outline option. So I'm going to go to the Connections tab and again create report from project. Choose that same file. And I'm going to choose Make a Swim Lane Chart. And go down to Coded Outlined. And this one pretty much works the same as coded symbols and bars, except the outline is going to determine where it's placed on the schedule. So it's not going to be using this this milestones row number. So you can see that's kind of grayed out right there. So symbology is still set to number 2 and toolbox row is still set to number 3. I'm not going to use the custom template. I'm just going to use this template right here, and I'm just going to press finish. And then you can see it says import complete, so I can press OK. And you can see kind of what came in. So it brought over these tasks using this symbology, this first row in the toolbox. This milestone came in using the second row in the toolbox, and that's that, that finish date right there. And then if I press page down, I can go to that next page, and you can see it brought over all these other tasks. So you can see the first 2 phases, they have a lot of tasks because I kind of put the codes in for all of those. So let me just go ahead and minimize those. And what happens is if there's no codes, it just keeps the outline level at 1 and it doesn't really add any tasks or anything. So I'm actually going to delete all these blank rows, and then you can kind of see how this starts summarizing up there on the correct phase 3 right there. I'm just deleting all these outline level 1 rows right here. This is another blank one. This is another blank one. And yeah, that looks pretty good. So I don't think there's any more, but you can see the phase 3 only had a few that I actually linked with the codes, and then phase 4 only had 1 that had a code on it. So that's pretty much it for most of our coded options in Milestones Professional. If you have any questions, feel free to email support@kidasa.com, and also visit our website at kidasa.com. Have a nice day.